Bartenders of Reddit. What is the strangest conversation you've ever overheard? Because people assume sound doesn't travel over the bar. A customer is on the phone in the middle of the bar. Not too crowded but a long bar. Guy couldn't have been more than 25. I go to help someone at the end of the bar and on my way back I overhear. No, I don't care. She's my sister. She is 13 and there is no reason she should be doing coke at all. Gave him a few drinks on the house that night. A woman was planning her dog's birthday party and was debating which dogs to invite since some of the dogs didn't get along with her dog. These siblings, aged 50-60s, arguing over there, not even dead and in fact present at the table. Mother's will and who gets what. It ended in a heated argument and the son speeding off. Had someone yell RIP Olivia Newton-John and I interjected that she wasn't dead. Big mistake. Drunk idiot got on one of those drunk loops about how I was wrong until we closed 20 minutes later. I even showed him on my phone that she wasn't dead and he said you can Google anything. Back when you kept a newspaper on the bar, guy walks in and goes straight for the paper, looks in one section then the other, places paper down. I asked him if he found what he was looking for, and he said no, his ex isn't dead or in jail. Then he asked for a beer. I've heard discussions on if my boobs were real. Listened to a couple in an open marriage and apparently bisexual scout out the picking for the evening. Listened to tons of people telling their so that they were working late. One guy even met a date later. Listened to a couple have a very intense whispered argument about custody. I assumed a kid. Turned out to be a cat. Listened to a couple guys plan how to rob me. Bartending was fun, I miss it sometimes. What happens a lot while working in bars is that you overhear small snippets of conversation that sound really weird taken out of context. Stuff like, the best way to steal eggs is to pretend that they are something else. The dogs wouldn't stand a chance against Bruce Springsteen in his prime. I don't know if she can swim, but she bought sandals in the 90s. I usually entertain myself making up stories about these conversations. My favorite of those is a woman exclaiming to her boyfriend, clearly agitated, "I don't know, I've never bought that much dill before." To this day I still occasionally wonder how much dill we were talking about exactly, and what unforeseen problems could be connected to it. Some people would use a time machine to go back and kill Hitler, or something similarly noble. I'd go back to that bar and ask her what the ever-living F they were talking about. These three middle-aged women, alone at the bar, discussing in excruciating detail their sexual fantasies, which seemed to include sucking off a younger man. I was 22 at the time. They obviously knew I could hear them but it was so awkward. I stood there cutting the hell out of lemons and limes. I'll share mine real quick. Two girls sitting at the bar, otherwise the place is empty. They start discussing the details and numbers of abortions the one girl has had. Not terribly offensive to me or anything, but I certainly didn't expect to hear about it at work when I came in. Otherwise the good ones come from a game of hypotheticals called Make It or Break It. Essentially, you have your perfect romantic sexual partner. Everything about them is perfect, except for one flaw, and you have to decide if it's a deal breaker. My favorite one is Make It or Break It. She's your perfect woman, but she tells you after you've been dating for a while that one time she f'd her dog. I think make it. What if she tells you it happened more than once? I don't know, dude. Probably still make it if she's perfect. What if it was your dog she f'd? Dude, F that be. That's my effing dog, man. Once this older couple, 55ish, were talking about their bedroom problems. The guy clearly had impotence issues and the lady kept complaining that she was feeling frustrated because he was frustrated. And Viagra wasn't really helping, or at least not helping enough. Let's just say that other people around them weren't as comfortable as them about the conversation. Two businessmen having after work drinks on a Friday, where the conversation built up to one of the sweetest sentiments I've heard. At first the usual them tell ya, "You're a good person. I love you, man." Later on, still fairly basic, "F the wives. Hey, you and me, we buy motorcycles." To finally this gem, "If a tornado were to blow you away, I would fly after you." I worked in a bar in a truck stop. We got lots of solo men. Guy on bar still says the government can track our every move. Now they're putting chips in newborns right at the hospital. The trucker next to him who he just met shakes his head and says, Yeah, I know. Both were serious as could be and talked with each other about how the world is messed up. It was the second trucker's response that got me. Not me, as I'm a cook, but a bartender I worked with and was good friends with overheard a regular that was a businessman who traveled to China often bragging about getting underage hookers while there. Made sure to tell everyone who knew him about it. I keep asking him to shoot it on my face. It's good for my skin, but he refuses. He says he doesn't want to disrespect me, but I'm literally begging. I was washing glasses right in front of these two girls at my bar. It wasn't even like I was far away across the bar. I once listened to 3 people have an in-depth discussion about how they were going to kill the local vampire and the steps to take to protect themselves from the coven that said vampire is surely from. My favorite though, what a heated debate over whether the first Robin would be a crime fighter if Batman hadn't picked him up and trained him. Was visiting my mom at work once. She tends bar, and heard her making conversation across the bar with a patron. Suddenly, over the music, I hear the guy slam his fist onto the bar and yell, "You are factually wrong." He immediately faceplanted on the bar, and his buddy had to carry him out of there. My mom was just commenting on the fact that the song that was playing was country. This guy was going through a divorce and his buddy was consoling him. He kept saying he'd never find someone as kinky as her. His buddy tried to tell him plenty of people are kinky, to which he replies, "You don't get it, dude. She used to blow our dog while we effed." I bartended at a country club, and there was this one group of tennis ladies that would always sit at the bar and get absolutely sh-faced on weeknights at our wine nights. They took a liking to our main bartender and kept calling him exotic. He's Mexican. They would say how love his beard. Would talk about their fav, not tennis related, positions, how they kept their nether regions tidy, slip him their numbers, how their husbands were, etc. Gave me death glares every time I'd be bartending bar backing with him, lol. Work in a downtown hotel bar right across from our convention center. I've heard way too many negotiations between businessmen and escorts. Last one I heard involved the guy asking the lady how much extra she would charge to let his friend watch. She said it was $200 to watch, $500 if he joins in. Was a bartender at a hotel bar. Had all sorts of interesting folks come through. One time a group of guys, of varying ages, all came down and took the biggest table. No big deal. It was a slow night. They proceeded to reach in their bags and set up a game of Dungeons and Dragons and start playing. Accents and all. I distinctly remember something about Bob the Necromancer. The other guests thought it was funny and interesting, so I figured no harm no foul. Let them play all night. Later in the night, the same guys still playing. We witnessed some guy with a gold robot head made of cardboard go running by the main window of the bar. He was wearing the gold robot head, shoes, and nothing else. The cops arrived shortly after and we all had to give statements. The cops proceeded to interrogate me about the D&D players because they like to dress up in weird costumes. Right? I told the cops that the guys hadn't left the table all night. One member of the adventuring party bid the cops farewell, in character. Another time I had a camera crew show up and start setting up. They were apparently with some ghost hunting show and were checking to see if we were haunted. I guess the owner had put them up to it. No press is bad press, so I let them do their thing. Apparently we were super haunted. Not the exact words they used, but the episode never made it to air. They ended up finding a secret crawl space which was pretty cool, but it was completely empty. Well, I'm not a bartender, but I once went to a very loud Cuban dance party, in a church, if it matters, and was trying poorly to chat with a lovely young lady and she was scream talking to her friend when the music suddenly stopped at the end of the song and in that half second of silence she hollered out, "I don't care, I just want to get laid." I thought that was a good sign, since she was clearly talking about me, which was unusual. Made it back to her place and she showed me her angel sticks. Dorky things you pull out and they have a word that describes you. I got forgiving and she concentrated really hard, then pulled out efficient and burst into tears and locked herself in the bathroom. I let myself out. A lady, her weird boyfriend, and the girl's sister at my bar. When the girl went to the bathroom, her sister scooted in towards him and was saying they should get out of there before her sister gets out of the bathroom and go get a motel. They both must have seen something I didn't because this dude was ugly. This will probably get buried in the comments, and it's not the strangest conversation, but definitely the coolest I ever had. I was bartending at a hotel bar in a historical district of a vacation town. We had quite a few semi-celebrities come through and it was pretty cool getting to meet them, but it was a regular thing. Never really got starstruck. Then, a guy started coming in every couple of months and always wore a Marshall University hat. I always just assumed he was alumni or fan, but once I got to know him I found out it was much deeper than that. He played for the Marshall football team that the movie We Are Marshall depicted. He was on the team the year after the horrific plane crash that killed the majority of the team. Me being a huge fan of the movie and the story behind it, we talked about it and his personal experience with the whole thing for hours. It was crazy impressive what all he and that team went through. Not only was he one of the nicest gentlemen I have met, but he was genuinely compassionate to a lot of the older folks that came through while he was there. He always went out of his way to open doors, pulls chairs out for random strangers, and really just made the bar an enjoyable place to be when he was there with his friendly conversations with everyone. Like I said, he only came in every few months, so he found out my last shift was going to be around the next time he was in town and told me he'd be there to have a drink with me. My last shift he walks in and surprised me with a Marshall University football autographed with a short note by Red Dawson, who was the coach that much of the movie was based on, and a signed copy of the movie. It's now on display in my living room and I love when people ask about it and I get to tell the story. Not a bartender, but I love hanging out on the riverfront and sounds travels quite well there. I overheard the gentlemen that were hanging out near me discussing whether to rob me or not. Not a bartender, but I heard two girls discussing how the bartender, who was easily within listening distance, would be attractive if he wasn't fat. Then they went on to joke about how he probably takes so many bathroom breaks because he is stuffing his face with fries in the back room. They were drunk and loud and weren't looking in his direction. I don't know if they realized he was so close by. The bartender was looking over and clearly listening in, but when he saw that I noticed what was going on, he just got red in the face. Poor guy.